myself. You folks have been with each other for a little period of time and probably already know each other. So I'll have to tell you that my name is Bill Hall, and I was originally from Denver, Colorado, but now reside in Pontiac, Illinois. In 1941, I was a senior at South High School in Denver. On December 7th, my safe world of being an innocent young man living at 312 South Grant in Denver came to an end. I listened to the accounts of the Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor on the radio and read to the power about the horror they inflicted upon us, and knew joining was the right thing to do. So on November 28, 1942, I became a United States Marine. I needed freedom's call. I was not alone, as countless men and women suspended their lives and gave freely to fight for a cause greater than themselves. My military education started with boot camp at Parris Island in South Carolina, continued to Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, and Quantico in Virginia, and then on to Hawaii to get tank training. After completion of the bases, I was sent to the island of the Pacific, namely Peleliu. We arrived finding 23,000 Imperial troops hiding in underground barracks and caves. I was one of 24,300 Americans to land, and really got a hot reception and drive. Faulty intelligence led American to grossly underestimate the Japanese. They had been preparing for us for 3 to 4 years and had made numerous spider holes and caves to hide. We went to tell the Japanese we were weak and ready to give up. Not true. 15 days of hard fighting followed, and we finally secured the island on September 30th, 1944. We fought for this island as Americans wanted it for an airfield. A high price was paid for this strip of land that was 6 miles long and 2 miles wide. Not very big, really. 10,500 Japanese died, and 2,000 Americans lost their lives. The atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, and 3 days later on Nagasaki. The Japanese surrendered on the USS Missouri on September 2, 1945, in Tokyo Bay. The war was over, but my outfit, the 25th Marines of the 5th Division, was ordered to invade Japanese and ensure the fact that the military had surrendered. As a young corporal, it was my responsibility to neutralize any military areas. And to help keep the peace. Talking with the Japanese people through an interpreter was really an educational experience. There are so many memories of Peleliu and so many stories I could tell, but one really is ingrained in my mind. It began on the night I was on duty along the Pacific Ocean. I still remember. Oh, I was scared.
That's scary.
Wow. I was on duty along the Pacific Ocean. My orders were to stand in the shadows among the trees and watch for the Japanese entering my boat. I stood there for quite a while when all of a sudden I saw a boat carrying about 10 to 12 men. I was scared already, but that really put the edge on me.
Oh, yeah.
I got in the business. I got in the bushes and undergrowth of the trees and sat down, trying my best not even to breathe, for fear that they would hear me. Just then a giant crab with a large claw crawled over to my right leg and crawled up my leg. As I didn't know what it was capable of, I got my gun butt ready. That's easy to do too, I'll tell you, to take it out. Took a swim, but missed. Luckily for me, it began scuttling away. There was wrestling and noise, and the Japanese looked right over to where the noise was. We were right in the middle of them. Namely, they were looking at the crab and at me. God was with me because they went on with their business, and after reporting what I saw, I was relieved of my duty for the night. Well, I guess so. I had vivid nightmare of that crab, sometimes scaring me more than the Japanese. And that's for sure. One memory I have of this time was seeing a Model T Ford packed on a deserted street in Sasebo, Japan. If you can believe that. This should be interesting to you. Brand new.
Right?
And that's all about, that's the only story about that, but there it was. Where did they come from? But there it was. It was strange seeing a bit of America right in front of our eyes, and definitely looked out of place. Definitely. Like thousands of others, I anxiously waited to be informed of my discharge. The thrill and joy of returning to the United States for me and every other GI was beyond description. The sacrifices came at a high price, which truly added to the significance of what America meant to me. My journey with the U.S. Marines was finally over in 1946, when I was honorably discharged with a Bronze Star and returned to the United States. I don't claim to be an authority on the happiness of World War II. I can only share with you just which happened to me during the time I served. I do know that I am very proud to be an American and was never regretted my decision to serve my country. There certainly were times I asked God for courage and the strength to make it through another day. I remembered the night before entertaining Peleliu. Many of us attended religious services. It was announced that Jewish, Catholic, and Christian services were being offered. I thought if one service was good to two, it would be better to join all three and probably get me a free pass. It was just kept rotating and spent the whole evening in different services. Obviously, it worked, as I'm here speaking with you today.
Yep.
Generations of brave Americans have given me a precious gift which I don't take lightly. I know people in other countries want what we have, the freedom to think, speak, and worship as we choose. Perhaps that's why so many people are willing to risk their lives just to taste the freedom of America. I get teary-eyed every thinking about of all of the attempts to cross rough seas in the little boats without life jackets, food, or which water there is, just to live in America. You can see those little boats out there time after time for people to get back to the United States, and that's about all they got. What does American mean to me? My answer is as diverse as American people, but I have to say there is one recurring theme that resonates through everything that Americans are and everything that America is, and that's freedom. I feel so privileged and honored to have been born in America. My heritage can be traced to England and Germany, but my parents were born here. They met, married, and settled in Denver, Colorado. I am the only child born to that union, and I got to live in America this dream simply by being born here. What a country. And finally, I tell you, as a person who has reached the 92, gosh, there's some changes in here. We have to change.
Well, it was
I says the 92, ripe old age of 92 has turned into 90.
No, you're 92 now.
Oh, I'm 92 now. Okay, well, that's bad enough, isn't it? 92.
No,
But I
I'm
have-
30.
But I have no
Maybe
regrets.
it's 29.
I am so proud to be an American and have to serve my country as a United States Marine during World War II. I could do all over again for my beloved America.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
You can see what an interesting life that I had taken from Denver, Colorado, and watching everything happen, and then I became part of it, and I got the best of the part. I think because I demanded the best and I worked for the best. When you go to an officer training place and go through that and then change around and then you're shipped out to fight, and had never been to any of those places in Hawaii. Very seldom been a big boat, and pretty soon I'm on the boat. We're headed for Hawaii, and little fish are flying up on the boat, and here's about, well, I don't know how many men, but I want to say 1,000 men or 500 men on this boat. We're all going for the same thing, and we're all eating there, and we're all working there, and we're all headed for the same place. And now suddenly, some of us, no, not me really, because I was too dumb for that, but the time was coming around where, hey, we're headed for trouble, and certainly got there quickly. And we found out that, I found out that I wasn't afraid. I had to do it. I was working with, it was a landing that we had to make, and 4 other fellows got stuck in the mud because every landing is sand and mud and so forth, and sometimes people get stuck. And sure enough, 4 of ours got stuck. We're all just old boys. We were all old boys, and they needed help. And I started throwing people out of the mud and helping them and everything. Lo and behold, about a month later, as our group met briefly, somebody called my name and said, "You're supposed to go up and talk to the general because he saw you saving some guys and they've got a thing for you." So I forget what it was that I got, but I said I didn't do anything that I wouldn't do any day, is to save these fellas. They were just good old boys, probably from Nebraska or wherever.
Was that your Bronze Star? Was that what you got the Bronze Star for?
And they says, you. I says, well, I said, nobody really knows that I did that. And they said, well, that's funny. The major saw you, and that's the only reason you're getting this deal. And I says, oh boy, there. So I was just really, I was just, over.
Tell them how the
overtime.
water and food was over there.
Well, everything was not as good as we hoped, but our water was we never really had any drinking water. It's what we saved if we could. Food was ample, but not proud of it. And everybody's the same, and everybody would tell you the same thing. It wasn't any good, but it really wasn't that bad. You do what you do, and you worked hard at it, and you did better by doing that, because I did as many things on my start by coming out this way, right very close to these places. That's what I got half of my learning of how to work, right down the road. And as a matter of fact, one of my first deals was at the college here, and then I got to leave for there, and things happened. I found that if I stuck with the guys always and did the things that we were supposed to do and do them the best you could do them, it didn't become easier, but it got the job done. And some of the things were so scary that, like when you're out there alone, you're guarding a post, and there's a bug walking a bug. It was a great big bug. It looked to be like it was after me, and because the Japanese had rousted him up, and you think, well, how am I going to secure this one? And so finally, they took care of it for me because I gave it back to them. But so many things happened that were interesting. And then making a landing, going into a town, and you go over the top, and then you look. Well, there's a Ford, a black Ford, brand new. It just was one of those old ones. I mean, brand new, and there they had it. How did those guys get that car? I never could get one, but there it was. So I said, well, we're in trouble. But they have things that I never had an idea. And we've talked. Ed and I have talked many times about there. Is there anything that comes to your mind with some of the things that I've talked to you about that were interesting and would be interesting for other people? I'm trying to tell you that my life was really interesting, and it was always up for me because that's the way I felt about things, and I did the best I could, and it turned out great.
Where did you go to school?
Well, let's see. I started University of Denver, and then I came here, and part of our training was to go to the big college here.
In Chicago.
I'm becoming an officer, which I did not make because I didn't want to. I said, what are these guys going to, what's this group that I'm with? I keep going to these colleges. And I went to three or four big colleges for different days training. But it was in the college, like, the big ones were the baseball teams.
Penn State you were at.
Penn State. I was at Penn State for a period of time, was part of the deal. And I was playing baseball there. And I played, where else was I that I played baseball? I was so proud of it. But anyway, those were the good things that happened. And
Rennie, come here.
those are the things that happened. The final thing came when I said, where is this group of men going to go that I'm with now? It seems to be in a different place. And they said, this group is going to...
Did you ever do anything for good luck while you were there? Did you have like a superstition or something that you did?
He carried
Your 50-cent or dollar, silver dollars.
Oh, yes.
and his watch.
Oh, yes.
And the watch.
The main thing that I carried was 2 silver dollars. And that was burdensome, really, but
Yeah.
nobody ever saw silver dollars, and I don't have them anymore.
We can't. They're upstairs somewhere.
They're someplace. And then
Your watch.
I had, your little deal that recognize who you are, your
Dog tags.
Your dog tag.
Dog tags.
Dog tags.
Yeah.
And now they've disappeared.
But
But
why
I-
were they on shoelaces?
Well, I put them on. Put mine on a shoelace. Some guys put them on
Hello?
on different types of things, and
Yeah.
I had 2 of them.
I got you.
So then I had them tied together so that they'd be sure they got the right guy. And everything really is scary. Like when we went to the Peleliu, water was so bad. The guys, the Japanese didn't even like each other. And they did terrible things to Americans that I would never tell you, but it was a terrible time that things happened like that. It wasn't what you think. I mean, it was worse, you know, and that wasn't all the time. That would be here and there that bad things happened. Mostly, they were like we were. They were probably as afraid as we were, and we treated them as best as we possibly could. And many times, maybe it wasn't as good as they thought it should be, but it was better than we got on the other side.
Were you able to keep in touch with your mom and dad while you were gone? Did you, or other family members or friends? Did you write letters back home?
Good. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
I was going to have it all set up that I can be able to tell them exactly where I was going to be. Now, how I did it, I knew that probably that the Marines are going to be at a certain area in the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make number 7 is, let's see, it would have to be a word that I would have on if I sent you, and I have to have the day of the month that this is coming, but that's all they'll ever let it go. But that day that was on there, 7 and 6 and 4 and 3, was a place on the map. And so that's how that got there. So I said they would always be safe, know that I was safe. And number 10 serves up all the time. It was what the biggest fighting was at what was
Hallelujah.
yeah, one of the biggest ones. That's the number that kept going in there when sometimes I wasn't, or I was there, but I'd have a different number on. So I thought that was really slick.
So they were able to, they figured it out. They knew where you were at while you were there.
They didn't ever really know. They never knew where I was. I was always at Pearl Harbor, a safe place really.
Yeah.
But other places, I was always in those places. I was never at the bad places.
Gotcha.
And so when we got home, I told him, and my mother about fainted when she says, I know you'd pull something like that, and we never worried. I always told my girls at the sewing group that he was safe, and they always wondered why I was always near that place, like Pearl Harbor or something like that, you know, because I was lying to them. But I was proud that I did that. That was a thought ahead of time, because my mother wouldn't have made the war. I know that because they worry about it, you know.
Did you keep a diary or a journal while you were there at all?
No.
No.
Only things like this I have. I did later on, and in different places I would put what we were doing and so forth. But it gets so busy, and then pretty soon it have a chance. Let's see, how did I? Oh, I know now. I was still stuck overseas, and finally I went in. The war is over now, but we were still out there because you had to still be out there. And I went all day long. You know, we were working hard. And I went to my lieutenant or to my sergeant. I says, hey, look, my time would be up because I've talked with guys that are doing the same thing I do or have done. And my time, it seems like they're leaving day by day. And I think that I should be going soon. And they'll say, well, they sent for you. And when we got up there, your name wasn't on the list. And now, excuse me, but get out of here, you know. So, okay, here. Now, it was so long that they sent a car for me at the camp to go find out, and then they'd take me back to the camp. You know, your name wasn't on there. So finally, one day, he says, hop in, we're going to go. I said, okay, well, another deal. And so I got there. He says, no, don't get here. You're going to go over with those fellas there that are boarding that big modern airplane, and they're all officers. And he says, they're all getting on, and they're all generals and the whole works that are going back, and you're going back with them, so keep your mouth shut and be very careful what you say, because these guys are generals, and you're you're going to ride back with them.
That's funny.
Well, of course I'll just keep my mouth shut. Well then, luckily, we got about, and this is another thing a lot of people don't know, but just about maybe 200 miles short of Pearl Harbor, we said, that was Pearl Harbor. Yeah, we're going to stop. Well, why are we going to stop? We're in this big airplane. Why couldn't we just slip on into Los Angeles? No, we're stopping here. You have to, because we haven't fed you for 12 hours. And this is what we have to do, which is what they had to do. So we were disappointed. We're in the middle of the night, we landed, they fed us, and they took off, and then we got to California the next morning. And as we pulled in, we had a whole many lovely people, orchestras, the whole deal, and pretty girls that was part of the deal. And I believe they were mostly movie stars. And so they met our group, and then they had a big dance going on there, as they did a lot of times for us to do that. So there were many good things that turned out about it, because I had some of those people for friends a long time, and so it turned out great. And then I got to go and see Los Angeles, which I always wanted to do, and then live there for a while too. So that's what it was all good things about it.
So what did you do right after the war? Did you use the GI Bill of Rights? Or
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to get going right now. Let's go. So I started right away, and let's see, where did I go first?
You.
DU?
Denver.
Denver School, college. Yeah. Went there first, and then, well, that's where I finished up.
That's where you finished up.
But I was still going to some of those other schools too, and what a break that! We're talking thousands of dollars I'm saving.
Yeah.
And then I'd go to them, and I could very good.
And then you started teaching.
And then I went right into teaching. So, well, here was something that was very strange. I thought one day I went back to an elementary school. I don't want to be elementary. I wanted to go secondary school. And so I went back to this elementary school, and they introduced me to the people that I'm going to work with, and they were going to be little kids that are going to be work with them too, and that's fine, and because that's what I want to do. I mean, I've got to do it because it's a job. So that's fine. So come back next weekend and we will be working. Come back the next weekend. Here was 4 fellas that I knew very well, and I said, "What in the world are you guys doing here?" They said, "You're our master teacher. You're going to show us how to teach these little kids." And that was it. I had to keep them. I think it was 5 fellas. They worked for me, and I didn't know any more about it. Well, I mean, I knew how to teach, but I didn't know any more about those kids. So I got them all jobs. It's just one of those things that worked out that way. And they all got jobs after working with me.
That's great.
That's the way funny things happen.
So what do you think students today, you mentioned you were a teacher, what do you think students today, what's the most important thing that they should know about World War II, in your opinion?
Well, they would have to know everything about what happens with you, and you know how the training is so very important, and teaching is very important. I think that's what you mean by that. I would think that if you had chances to be teachers, do it. Teaching is a wonderful job, and if you're with it, you're very successful. There's one that's very successful right there.
And my answer would be to instill the love of freedom, because I mean, there's no country like ours.
Right.
None.
Is there anything you'd like to tell the kids today? Nicely.
It's one of the greatest things that you could do is work with other people and young people and or young people or old people or the best thing you can do and do a good job and work at it, and I've enjoyed every bit of it, and that's a long time, you know. And
How long did you teach? How many years?
42 and then 15 as a sub.
Holy.
oh yeah, once you
Wow.
get, then when you get out, you come back.
Go back in.
and be a sub.
Wow.
That's how.
So
you know, I
42
could-
years and 15 years as a substitute
Yeah.
teacher. Wow.
And see that, and that's because I like it, and I liked working with people, and I hear from them all over the country. They'll write to me and
Tell him how old that, when I said to that one guy that called when you were sick, I said, hey, by the way, how old are you? He said, I was in Bill's first class
Oh,
at this junior high school. I said, so how old are you? He said, 80.
so
Isn't that amazing?
It is
Wow.
amazing. And he said, I haven't heard from Coach for a while. Do you think, how is he? And I said, he's in Even Glow right now. And I said, I don't know.
I'll
80
tell you
years
where he
old.
is right now. His name is Billy Garcia.
You still remember it,
I was
huh?
going to tell you something. He is still working and dealing and whatever he's doing. I mean, he was in trouble when I got a hold of him. And I would go to a place where I knew that he was a lot of the time. And as I was walking between the rates of where people were in jail, hey, Coach! Oh, God, there's another one. Oh, there's my man. He was in jail, and then he was out of jail, and he was a good kid, because I got him good, and that's why he's been in the meantime. He's had jobs, very successful, Bill Garcia. But I did have to visit here many times.
Okay, good.
Is there anything else?
I don't
Kelly?
think so. Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
I hope so, because it was my life, and
yeah.
it was I wish you could have been with me some of the times, because it was so interesting.
Pretty extraordinary.
A lady
thank
at
you
the
for
church
Thank
helping
you.
us.
made
Thank
this.
you very, very much.
Yeah, it's hard to talk
This.
about some of that sometimes.
A
you
lady
know.
at our church made this for Bill.
That's beautiful.
Isn't
It's
that
really
something?
nice.
That's very
That's
pretty.
great.
Sit on that chair.
Hold
Wow.
on to that for me. Hold on to it.
Oh, Eileen will be glad to
Like
hear
a
that.
horse.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. It is my happy privilege to introduce a new song, God